Hello, Austin. Hello, everyone. My name is Cameron, and I am building Forge, which is a language school in your pocket. I'm an avid language learner myself. I've studied 4 languages, including minoring in Japanese at Stanford. And I found this consistent problem, and I'm not the only one, which is that the content and tools that are out there are incredibly disconnected and siloed. Essentially, everything you need exists out there on the internet to learn a new language, but it's not all connected together and brought into one system. So that's what we're doing. When you open up Forge, we start you on a fundamentals course. We have really in-depth explanations, these kind of long reading lessons, and which we have way more content than anyone else has at all, a full textbook, basically. Then we combine that with interactive exercises to really lock things in. But that's just the start. We then move on to loading that content automatically into dynamic review tools, so we can provide you with tools to review concepts and vocab, like the example is here, in a spaced repetition system with multiple question types and multimedia. We should address the green owl in the room, which is the most common question I get when talking about Forge, which is, what about Duolingo? Duolingo is fun, no doubt. I've used it extensively myself, but it does not teach you a language in the way you're expecting, right? Duolingo trains you for Duolingo. You get better, you become a master of multiple choice, and you get good at Duolingo, then you go try and talk to someone and you cannot understand them. So that's what we're building, is basically a Duolingo that actually prepares you for the real world, right? We're bringing together all the content you could need, combining it with those dynamic review tools, and packaging it up into that smooth UI. Forge is a school. It just doesn't feel like school. Right now, we have around 1,800 downloads across iOS and Android. Our users are completing 7 to 8 lessons every day. And we've doubled our monthly retention since our last update about 6 weeks ago. What you're seeing there is essentially brand new. So if you're interested, you can download Forge at forge.co, find links for both Android and iOS. And we are raising right now, so you can contact me at cameron@forge.co.
Awesome, super interesting. So it's always like, it's fascinating to me when there is a company that's in a market that's so dominated by one player that you actually have and that was the thing going through my mind. It's like, oh, it's like Duolingo, but somehow different.
Yes.
So what do you think it is? I think this is perhaps the most important question to ponder on. What is it that makes Duolingo so successful? Why has Duolingo dominated the market?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is definitely has the largest both market share and mind share of any app out there. And it's mainly because it's incredibly addicting, and that they've built they've done really well at building that game out, where you just want to come back every day. I talked to a user who had a 1,000-day streak. So she'd been doing this every day for 3 years and just could not let it go, even though she acknowledged that it wasn't the best way to learn, right? So that is I think the biggest challenge for us is getting people off of that and onto here. Although, to be fair, they do have a lot of churn. So people are looking for something more robust.
Sure. So your core thesis is, to put words in your mouth, Duolingo built a really addictive game engine, and the effectiveness of that engine, doesn't really matter, because Duolingo is not getting paid to actually teach you a language. It's getting paid for you to keep using the app.
Right. Their tagline is, "We make learning free and fun." And my question has always been, well, what about effective and
what about the learning piece?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Right. So what do you do? So that kind of gets to the next core piece of your thesis. What are you doing that's different? I mean, obviously, I've spent a ton of time looking at different pedagogical methodologies.
Yeah.
What's your core thesis there for what Duolingo? I mean, who cares about Duolingo, for the right way for people to learn and stay engaged?
Yeah. So
Cameron, as you think about answering, Austin, if you could just hit that camera lens again, that'd be great. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's a great question. It is from just taking tech out of it, the actual approach is completely different. They have kind of this bottom-up approach of throwing you into different lessons and different, saying, hey, translate this and figure out the grammar and things on your on your own. So we flipped it completely and said, hey, no, we like textbooks. We like classes where they actually teach you the concepts, right? I liked my Japanese classes in college. And so we're making our feature set is much more comparative to a university classroom than it is to Rosetta Stone or something like that. So actually introducing the UI is very similar and approachable that way, but what's going on behind the scenes is completely different. There's like tons of content and really robust, a whole library of stuff behind.
Yeah, so you're just saying, hey, let's just take a fundamental classroom experience of learning a language and put it into an app, as opposed to this cute little quirky game thing that doesn't really work.
Exactly. I see new apps every day that say you're learning a language wrong. Here's a brand new way to learn. And I think, many thousands of years of humans learning language can't be completely wrong. There's no brand new ways, right? So let's take that and apply what we can from technology to it.
I think you just asked my next question, which is how do you stand out in that flooded of a market when there are that many apps? Yeah, how do you gain traction?
That's been the challenge. Fortunately, most of our users have come from places like the different Reddit language learning communities. So I get kind of, direct feedback from them. And both the methodology of providing really robust resources for them and kind of the general vision of connecting up these different pieces, I think you saw that we have quite a different experience right now, but it will continue to build on that as we get more content and things. But the essentially marketing challenge and even getting people on in that crowded of a space is definitely the biggest challenge for us.
Last question. I know we're out of time. So I saw Spanish. I assume basically every language learning app has Spanish.
Yeah.
Are there, do you speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any, I think a really interesting user acquisition hack, are there any quasi-esoteric languages that aren't covered well by language learning apps? For example, I speak Russian. There are not very many good Russian learning apps. That the market size is obviously smaller, but anyway, I think that could be an interesting.
I started studying Swedish, and it's the same there, where there's just nothing for ASL, for example, things like that. So and I think the flip side is going from Spanish to English will actually be bigger in the long run than going English to Spanish. That's just what we've started with to kind of build up the tech.
One thing that I think could be interesting as we move on, just a thought that's occurring is one use case that I think Duolingo seems to have captured well is couples. You're dating someone, you're married to someone who speaks another language, you want to know. So I wonder if that's an interesting vector to grow.
That's where we get to the level 2 kind of things, where it gets into more topic based, and we can go to those specific vectors of, hey, you're in a couple, hey, you're doing business, you're a pilot, whatever that is, and go specific to your needs.